So I'm continuing our theme, looking at the 5 aspects of the spiritual path tonight. We're looking at these 5 aspects and illustrating them through story. So I will be telling a story a little bit later on. But first of all, just looking at the 5 aspects, we've got integration, positive emotion, spiritual death, spiritual rebirth, and receptivity. And we're going through all of these aspects over the next few weeks. And we've already looked at integration. We've had many stories about integration. We've had a worm. We've had a story of somebody looking at a dog that was in a little bit of need of help. Lots of stories. So we've gone through integration. We've integrated the lower aspects of ourselves, the bits that we'd rather not have, but that we need to get on board. And we've integrated the higher aspects of ourselves, the bits that we might be a little bit awed by, that we can also integrate in order to shine. And once we have integrated these aspects, we can move and positive emotion can emerge. So once we're integrated, that can give rise to positive emotion, which is lovely. And last week we heard about metta and harmony from Moksatara. So positive emotion, it might not always feel good, but it often can. Love and joy, they can feel very light, very warm, very strong, expansive feelings, connecting feelings. But positive emotion, it doesn't always have to feel like anything really at all. And positive emotion itself can also sometimes be painful. So for example, compassion, if you see somebody suffering, if your metta meets somebody in the world who's suffering, that can be painful, but it's very, very positive to feel that compassion, to feel that connection to another person. So it's not feeling that is key here, but it's intention. So positive emotion is when we have an intention to cultivate or move towards or express that which is healthy and beneficial. So we're wanting to cultivate that which arises out of or is conducive to skillful mental states, so ethical states of mind. And these mental states, they can help us to live more in accordance with reality and with how things really are, which is what the Buddha realised and taught. So any mental state that gives rise to living ethically or allows us to live more ethically, living more in line with how the Buddha taught. So that's positive emotion. So we could describe that as a skillful intention or a positive wish or will. And this description brings in the active component of this stage. So it's not just a positive change that's arising in our own body and mind, but it's something that is in our own individual experience, but it can lead to a positive effect on the world. And it affects our behaviour as well as our mind. So yeah, if we can refine and transform our own mind, then that will impact on how we behave. And Vedanta is always happy to bring out that this word emotion actually contains that within the word. So emotion, it's saying that we have a positive wish to act in the world. So emotion, that the word itself actually means to move out, to want to express something. So it's really important that we bring these two together. We have a positive feeling, a positive emotion, and we try and put that into action in our lives. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. So yeah, last week we heard about metta, which is the key positive emotion in Buddhism. And Moksatara talked about metta and talked about how we can live in harmony with other people, particularly in the Sangha. So I've written out metta here, metta or love, kindness, and it forms the basis of 4 positive emotions that are known as the Brahma Viharas, and this is a set in Buddhism of positive emotion. So each one arises out of metta. So after metta we have compassion or karuna, this is the Pali word. So karuna is compassion, and that's when metta meets suffering in the world. Karuna arises. Then we've got mudita, which is sympathetic joy. So that's when metta meets joy in the world, or meets happiness. If we see somebody happy, experiencing something joyful, and we have metta, then when metta meets that joy, sympathetic joy arises, and we feel happy for them as well. And then upeksha, equanimity. To put it very simply, that is acknowledging that there is compassion, that there is suffering, and there is joy in life, and holding that there are ups and downs, and there's positive and there's painful, and the picture is kind of that realisation of equanimity. So they're called the Brahma Viharas because dwelling in these states is like dwelling with the gods. Brahma means God. And if we are able to dwell in these states, then it's like living in heaven. It's like being with the gods in heaven in very positive states of mind. So there are meditations that we can do to cultivate these positive states of mind, the Brahma Viharas. And if you're keen to go on retreat, there are retreats that you can go on that help you to meditate upon these qualities and bring them out more and more in your life. So a very important set of positive emotions. But another very important positive emotion that I'm going to talk about mostly now for the rest of the evening is gratitude. So gratitude isn't held in the Brahma Viharas, but it is a very, very important emotion in Buddhism. It's so special, it's got to feel precious. So yeah, I'm going to be talking about gratitude, and the title of this talk is Thanking the World. So yeah. The first one, it wasn't the first thing I did actually, but one of the things I've done when I've been writing this talk is to look up what gratitude means, the English word, what does that mean? And I really like looking up definitions of words, and the internet helps. So gratitude, it's a noun, and it means goodwill. So again, we've got will there, and thankfulness, and it's from Latin gratus, thankful, pleasing. And then to be grateful is the adjective of the noun gratitude. So, pleasing to the mind and full of gratitude, disposed to repay favours bestowed. Disposed to repay favours bestowed. the tongue teaser, but yeah. So, yeah, wanting to thank people in action for things that we've received from them, basically. So, and I also got this, grateful often expresses the feeling and the readiness to manifest the feeling by acts, even a long time after the rendering of the favour. It's still quite an old definition, but you get the idea that gratitude is like a sustained state of wanting to act generously back to people who you realise have helped you. It says that thankful is more like an immediate, just saying thank you is a more immediate thing that you do in speech, but to be grateful and to express gratitude is to act in accordance with feeling very thankful for something that somebody's done. I thought that was important to know. So yeah, in Buddhism, gratitude is seen as a very, very positive emotion because it reflects a deep understanding of the interconnectedness of all things. So this is what the Buddha taught. It's one of the 3 lakshanas, which we hear about, the 3 marks of conditioned existence that we hear about on the intro course. That nothing is separate or fixed, that we are not fixed or separate individuals. And if we realise that, we will feel grateful for all of the things that help us to survive and to live. So if we realise that we're not separate and independent, we realise that we rely on many other people and on many other conditions to live the lives that we so fortunately live. And we realise that no thing is fixed or separate either. And then we can come to see that even the apple in our fruit bowl is something to be extremely grateful for. So I'm saying apple because we did a whole retreat, a whole Sangha weekend on gratitude recently. And such Jyoti used an apple as a way of showing how just a simple apple can have lots and lots and lots of factors that contribute to it being in our hand, in our fruit bowl. I haven't actually got an apple tonight. There is one in our fruit bowl at home. Okay. So yeah, I thought, so she did this exercise where she just held up the apple and said, let's all reflect on what conditions led to this apple being here. So I want to do a similar exercise now, and I want you to shout out conditions that have led to you being able to sit here, listening to my voice coming through this sound system. So there's quite a few things going on there. But that is our experience right now, is that we're all in this room. You're hearing my voice, I'm speaking. You can hear it. I'm saying stuff. So what's led to that? How has that happened?
My mum.
Your mum, so Sangeeta's mum. Yeah, thank you. She's actually in Sheffield at the moment, if anybody wants to meet Liz. You can come have a cup of tea in our conservatory. She's a lovely woman. She goes there for Sangeeta. Yeah. Okay, anyone else?
Your mum.
My mum, yes. She will also go there. Me, she's not in Sheffield, unfortunately. She's in Machynlleth in Wales, but yes, thank you, mum.
Buddhist Centre.
The Buddhist Centre. Okay, so we've got this amazing centre that I can stand in and speak to you in, and you can be here to listen. Yeah. Thank you, Buddhist Centre.
Hands on the sound system.
Great, hands on. He's got really amplified simplified. Thank you very much, Tamsin.
Internal combustion engine.
An internal combustion engine. We wouldn't have been.
Why won't we be able to go here?
You wouldn't have been able to get here. Okay, so yeah, mechanics and internal combustion engines. Yeah.
Heating in the Great Hall.
Heating in the Great Hall. Yeah, I'm warm enough. I hope we've got blankets as well. I'm warm enough.
The Norman Conquest.
The Norman Conquest. Going back in time. Yeah. I know little about history. But do you say more? No. Everything would be different.
I was going to say your teachers, but I've just changed my mind.
So my teacher, Vidania, did do my intro course, so if it wasn't for Vidania, I may not be standing here now, and I'm very, very grateful for that.
The Catholics who had this built.
The Catholics who built this chapel, yeah, we wouldn't be here if they hadn't done that.
The Big Bang.
The Big Bang! Thank you, universe! Yeah.
Duke of Devonshire, who gave the Catholics this hall.
Did he? Yeah, the Duke of Devonshire, we've got a lot to be thankful to him for.
Yeah, he built this chapel.
Yeah, he gave the money for this chapel, brilliant.
You spent time writing the talk.
I did write this talk, yeah. I had a laptop to write the talk on. I had the time to spend to do it, which I was very generously given by the centre team, so that I could sit and write this talk, yeah.
Sangharakshita.
Sangharakshita, yeah. A lot of what I'm telling you now I've learned because Sangharakshita has taught me and other people.
Sangharakshita's mum.
Sangharakshita's mum. Tutoring, I believe, in 1925, yeah.
The Buddha.
The Buddha, yeah, thank you, Buddha.
Buddha's mum.
The Buddha's mum.
And his dad.
Maybe we'll end there. I was hoping we'd get more to the microphone. The Buddha's dad, yeah. Dads are important too, yeah. I was trying to get to the microphone as well. I also wanted to give a little shout out to Kate Bush because she's one of my heroines. And without Kate Bush, we might not have had mini little microphones because she was the first person to use a little mini microphone on a little headset so that she could dance and sing at the same time. Thank you, Kate Bush.
Kate Bush's mum.
Kate Bush's mum. And Dad. And the guy from Pink Floyd who found her in the first place. So there's lots of different conditions that all lead, you know. We didn't get to the stuff like the sun and the rain, but that's all there too, because we wouldn't be here without that. And yeah, I'm sure there'll be some kind of way of making stuff like this that involves the sun, but I don't know about that. Okay, so through this exercise, hopefully we can have a bit of a greater awareness of the interconnected and preceding factors that bring about everything, that bring about our experience, everything, every relationship in our life. There are many, many factors that allow those to happen. And so everything in our life, our very existence, relies on a network of other things and on our relationships with other people. So if we can have that kind of perspective, if we dwell with that perspective, then things or objects, I think they become more alive. Our thoughts and our own experiences they seem less separate, and other people and our relationships to other people become more significant. And we do this gratitude exercise on the intro course. We just ask people to just write out names of people that they're grateful for, and they can just do that in any which way, like from birth onwards or in different kind of realms of their life. And often you'll see people just writing name after name after name, and it's a very, very positive, very joyful exercise to take part in. And we do it as a way to look at emotion and look at how to refine emotion. But it's not always easy, and when I first did the intro course, when I was doing that exercise, I found it very, very difficult. I always had maybe 6 names, and writing the names that I wrote brought up lots of memories and lots of painful experiences, and also I had some kind of weird hierarchy thing going on. I was like, okay, I could be grateful to those people because they were really important people, and then I felt like I couldn't write other people down because I had to kind of uphold the significance of those few. So yeah, I didn't find it very comfortable, and I felt quite blocked to this positive emotion that other people were experiencing when they're writing down lots and lots of names. And I think that's important to share because I think what I needed to do at the state I was in when I came on the intro course was kind of go back a little bit to the previous stage and integrate a little bit more. So through integration, I was able to resolve some of the things that happened in my past, resolve some of the difficult relationships that I'd had. And through that integration, and also having other avenues of positive emotion like friendship, and I really started to enjoy rituals and things like that, then the rest of my emotions could flow a little bit more freely. So I think it is really important that we see that integration can give rise to positive emotion, and if there's something that's we're finding difficult in positive emotion, there might be something that we can resolve or look to discern what can we do about what it is that's difficult in our past. And that's what I did. And through doing that, my memories became more like a little patchwork quilt rather than there being these really key, difficult memories that seemed to dominate. I had lots of memories, so with my parents, a lot of positive memories came through, as well as the painful ones. So, yeah, and the difficult people in my life, they didn't seem to hold so much weight. They could just be another person. And I didn't have to accept behaviours that I didn't think were skillful, or I didn't have to like everybody either, but I could resolve relationships in my past that have been difficult. So yeah, if that exercise does work for us, and we can find a way to access this kind of writing names and names and names of different people in different areas of our life, then that can also lead to this broader sense of interconnectedness when we realise, wow, yeah, it's all these people that have helped me be who I am today, and I'm very, very grateful for being who I am today. So I've spoken about how positive emotion doesn't really have to feel like anything in particular, it doesn't have to feel very, very pleasant. So how can we look at gratitude in this way? How can we have gratitude if we're not going to feel kind of joyful or any pleasurable emotion in particular? And I've written this word down, long word, Katanyata, and that's a Pali word, and that's basically what gratitude is in Pali. If you're reading about gratitude in any of the Buddhist scriptures, it's probably this word, Katanyata. So that actually means recognition of benefits received, or knowing what has been done. So again, that doesn't really have a kind of affective feeling component to it, it's just recognising that you have received benefits, or knowing what has been done for you. So you don't have to feel all lovely, but you can see that without the support of a particular person or situation, you wouldn't have benefited quite in the same way. And you can see that there has been some kind of blessing through that, and you feel that you want to recognise that support. So recognising that is gratitude. And if you are able to give thanks or honour that in any way, then that's gratitude too. So yeah, you don't have to be particularly effusive, you might not be a particularly effusive person, but you can give thanks and you can show somebody that you're grateful for the benefits that you acknowledge they have given to you. And if you can show that gratitude and show that you're grateful, that is a very positive act. That act itself, it reflects that you have an understanding of interconnectedness and therefore an understanding of reality. And that sense of perspective and connection, that's a very positive thing too. So now I'm going to tell you a story, like I promised I would. So it's from this sutta, the Sigalovada sutta. And Sigla is a young man who the Buddha comes across one day as he's walking, looking for food. The Buddha's going around with his bowl, which is how he got food. He'd go around to the villagers and ask for food. So the Sigalovada Sutta is what the Buddha taught to Sigala. So the Buddha finds this young man, and he's by the side of a river in the squirrel sanctuary. And he's just bathed, so he's been in the river, he's cleansed himself, he's bathed. And the Buddha finds him bowing to 6 directions. So he's just kind of bowing, going around 6 directions. So that's east, south, west, north, the ground below him, and the sky above him. So the Buddha saw him doing this and thought, okay, this is interesting. I've not seen this before. I wonder why he's doing that. So he goes up to him and says, why are you bowing in this way? And the boy, he says, oh, my father, he died recently, but before he died, he told me that if I did this every day, then I will be protected. Sweet. So I think this shows how ritual and worship and devotion, how it was and it still is quite an important part in Indian society, and it's quite a normal thing in Indian society to worship and show devotion. And I think that isn't something that we do so much here in the West. But next week, Bodhinath is going to talk about those as positive emotions, and he's going to talk about why worship and devotion could be seen as an access to positive emotion. But yeah, so it wasn't kind of that odd that this guy was doing this ritual every day, but the Buddha wanted to know why, and that was why. He wanted to be protected, and this is how his father told him that he would be. So the Buddha, hearing this, he had a suggestion to Sigala of a way in which he could incorporate the ritual that he was doing, but do a little bit more in order to truly be protected. And he said that he could teach him how he could really find protection through bowing to the 6 directions. And Sigala, recognising the Buddha as a spiritual teacher, as a holy man, said, yes, please do tell me what I can do. So the Buddha said that rather than just bowing, he suggested that Sigala could bring to mind different people or different sets of people every time he bowed to a different direction. So he could show his gratitude and give thanks to each of those sections of his life, or these groups of people, by bowing in those directions. So by teaching Sigala this, the Buddha is showing that we can feel protected, and what can keep us protected and what can keep us acknowledging what keeps us alive is by acknowledging the network of relationships that sustain us. And that if we protect these and honour them and be grateful for them, then we will be protected too. So, some of you may have noticed that we've got the directions pinned up around the hall. Maybe some of you haven't noticed, but they are here. We've got east, south, west, north, with a combination of Google and Tansel's little compass on his keyring. I've tried to get it accurate. So, north, east, south, west. We've also got above, and I put that on the shrine here to acknowledge that it's spiritual teachers, and I've got a little picture there, and then we've got below, and I've got an arrow pointing down on the floor here. And I've got little pictures to represent the different directions and the different groups of people, which you might not be able to see so well now, but you can go walk around at the end and have a little look, and I'll describe them as I go around. So I'm going to go around and list what the directions are first, quickly, and then I'm going to say a little bit more about each one. So the Buddha said, the following should be looked upon as the 6 directions. So the parents should be looked upon as the east, the teachers as the south, spouse and children, or as we sometimes call it, the significant other, as the west, friends as the north, servants and employees below, or as the nadir, and ascetics and Brahmins as the zenith, or as above. So spiritual teachers as above. Here we go. So I'm going to go through each and say a little bit about why the Buddha may have suggested that we reflect on these groups of people. And after I've talked about each one, I'm going to suggest that we all stand up and we all bow towards that direction. So some of you might not want to bow, and that's okay, but what I would suggest is that we just all stand up anyway and face that direction. And if you don't want to bow, just bring that group of people to mind. Notice if any gratitude arises, give thanks in any way you want to, silently, or maybe not silently, that could be a bit cacophonous, but yeah, just acknowledge if any gratitude does arise. And if something other than gratitude arises, again, just notice that, just notice what feelings are coming up for you, honour them, just listen to that, and then we'll sit back down again, and I'll talk about the next direction, and so on and so forth. Okay? So, I'm going to start in the east, that's where the Buddha starts, where the sun rises. So in the east, we've got parents. So the Buddha starts here, I think, because without them, we really wouldn't be alive. And we did have lots of mums and dads coming up, didn't we, when we were doing our exercise. So we were born, and our parents raised us, they taught us. They cleaned our dirty nappies, they cleared away the dirty nappies, they gave us food and clothing. They gave us the views on the world and how we could go about living in the world when we were very, very young. So our relationship with our parents, it can be complicated, but it is true that either our biological parents or other people did care for us when we were too little, when we were so young and vulnerable that we couldn't look after ourselves. And there would have been many late nights and a lot of, responding to crying babies going on there that we can't even remember now, that did happen. So Mogmags is grilling at Bodhanaga because I think he's going to know what this is about right now. So yeah, and we do continue to rely on our parents often as we grow older, especially in this society. I think I'm very grateful for my parents for all the support they've given me as I've grown up. and become a young woman. So yeah, our parents were giving us food for our mums to give birth to us and to raise us as we were very small. So, the East. Okay. So from the east, we go to the south, and here we've got teachers. I've got a little picture here of a young woman pointing to a light bulb that's kind of lighting up on a chalkboard. So the teachers that give us our ideas, that teach us how to read and write, they teach us all the knowledge that we have about the world. They might teach us particular skills, practical things that we need to know how to do. We might have learnt about the arts or history, or we might have learnt different languages. So I've got this picture of a very calm-looking teacher there pointing to a lovely light bulb, and I was joking with Daniel, who is a teacher, because I also found a picture of a teacher going like this, looking really, really stressed. And Daniel assured me that it can be both, you know, sometimes it's stressful, but sometimes it's very joyful too. So I don't think I really realised quite how tough a job teachers had when I was at school. You know, they were just there teaching me stuff. But yeah, it's a lot of hard work, I think, for teachers. And often when we're doing exercises like this, it can be quite surprising for people that their old teachers do come to mind, like teachers they might not have really thought about again had they not been doing this kind of exercise, who just said a particular thing one day or really helped them out with a particular project or something, and they could really see that had really benefited them. So yeah, often it can be quite a surprising influence, but some of our teachers we will have spent a lot of time with when we were younger, and I think for me, some of my teachers, they did give me confidence, they showed me what I was capable of, and sometimes they gave emotional support when we were looking for that, you know, as young teenage women, you know. If there was something going on within our friendship group, we would turn to our teachers sometimes to say, oh, you know, so-and-so's, this has happened to so-and-so, and can you help us? And we couldn't go to our parents, or we didn't feel like we could go to our parents. But yes, our teachers, they give us a lot of knowledge and a lot of skills, and that's hard work for them, but we really do benefit from that, and we are fortunate to have the education system that we have, I think, in this country. The teachers in the south. Okay, so in the West, we have spouse and children, which is what it is in the traditional sutta, or significant other, which is another way that we describe it, which is a bit clunky. So I've written help down underneath this one, and I'll explain that with another little story later. And the pictures is of people kind of just reaching to hold hands. So there is something about intimacy and kind of closeness within this one. But in the traditional sutta, it's spouse and children. And in traditional society in India, you would be married most likely. You'd have a family, and that family would provide your daily support. So in India now, that kind of familial contact is still greatly relied upon, and families are very important in India. When we were on the pilgrimage, there was a girl who was on the pilgrimage with us for a kind of like work experience, looking at like tourism and stuff like that. And she had a girl that was travelling with her, so that they could travel together. And she would say, "Oh, this is my sister." "Oh, no, it's not my sister. It's my cousin." No, and she found it difficult to tell us actually what connection they had, but they were very, very close, and they were in some way related. So, and I think this happened more than once in India, where we found out that like the person that was running our hostel just had like a massive extended family upstairs, and that is quite usual in India, where you have your daily support and you rely very much on your family. And that again isn't maybe something that all of us experience. We might not be that close to our families. We might not have that much contact with them, or we might not have actually that much contact with one particular person. unless we are in an exclusive relationship. And I think also in our society we can see being independent and therefore not relying on other people as a really positive thing. I think, well, I have to look after myself, I'm fine. And a lot of us sometimes just are in that situation where we have to look after ourselves. And so I think it's really important to allow for the feelings of loneliness or isolation that can come up for us in this stage. To acknowledge that and understand that that's happening for us. Perhaps there's loss, or there may be grief, or we may have aversion based on past painful experiences that it is important to say can come up for people in this stage. And we might want to dwell on why that is the case. Why do we think that we're so independent, and why do we look after ourselves so strongly? We might want to ask, is that true? Am I really looking after myself, or are there other people that I rely on more than I realise I do? Am I as independent as I think I am? And we might also consider whether there are people that we want to move towards, that we want to have a more intimate relationship with, so that we could have people that are more regularly in our lives that we can rely on for support. And maybe the Sangha can provide that for us. So this direction, it's asking us to acknowledge when there are people that we regularly rely on for support, and to acknowledge who those people are, and to feel grateful for those people for providing that support. And the reason I put help underneath this one is because I've got a very touching story of a friend of mine in London, and she lives near the London Buddhist Centre in East London, and she's got an elderly friend who lives nearby as well. And she was just telling me that she was kind of looking through the text that had recently been sent back and forth between them, and how she kind of thought it was quite touching and she wanted to share it. And I was very moved. And her elderly friend had just texted help, and that was it. And my friend just texted coming, and that was that. So she'd gone to help her friend, and to have that kind of relationship where you can just know that someone is going to be there, that you can trust that that person will be there for you. And I just like that as an example of how that can be the case for people. And that, a young woman and an elderly woman, they'd met in the Sangha, they'd formed a friendship. And, it's nice. So it might be when we're in a bit of a pickle, our car might break down, we might need to borrow a little bit of money for some reason, we might need emotional support. So it's who do we contact when we're in that state, when we need that support. And this might be the kind of support that we look to a partner to provide, but there might be certain friends that we rely on as well in this situation. But if we are in a relationship with a particular person, an exclusive relationship maybe, then this is the direction where we bring that person to mind and connect with the gratitude that we have for that person in our life. And again, I thought this was quite radical actually, because again, I've got an example of a friend of mine who I was with a few months ago, and she's in a relationship with someone, and she just said, I love him so much, and I'm so happy. And I thought, that was really sweet. And actually, I don't often hear that from my friends. I really don't. And it was just like, okay, really straightforward. So I thought that was another good example of how we can kind of just let go of that, having a really neurotic basis for a relationship, and not actually providing anything that we're actually that grateful for. Which I think is quite normalised in the society, the dramatic relationship that actually involves quite a lot of pain and neurosis. So maybe we could move towards having more straightforward, loving relationships, or at least have gratitude for the relationship that we are in, that hopefully will be providing some benefit. And again, in this stage, I wanted to share that while I was on my ordination retreat, we did a gratitude exercise there as well, and we had to pick somebody that we have a bit of a difficult relationship with, that we might resent for some reason. And we had to write down all the things that you do for that person, and then write down all the things that that person does for you. And it was really quite shocking, because I found that this person that I found difficult actually does lots and lots and lots for me. And he is quite a significant person in my life and my family, and it was important to redress that imbalance that I thought he wasn't really doing that much of. So the significant people in our lives are people we often rely on for support. So to the north, we've got our friends and associates. So these might be just our pals, basically, the people that we really enjoy spending time with, the people that we associate with regularly, and yeah, we just really enjoy hanging out with them. I've got a picture of the Friends cast from the TV series that I grew up watching, and they're all drinking milkshake. So, I don't know, we might have other things that we do with our friends, like we might go running or go to the cinema, or I don't know what we do with our friends. Go to a lot, maybe, I don't know. So yeah, they might be people that we see every day. They might be people that we share quite a lot of history with, that we might not always see that regularly, but they're the people that we really, really enjoy spending time with, the people that we like, and the people that we would choose to see as often as we can. So, simple one. Okay, this is maybe my favourite one. Bowing below to the employees or service people. So I've got an arrow pointing down. So in the traditional sutta, it's like servants, because it would have been quite usual to have servants in traditional Indian society. And for the picture, I think that kind of describes it quite well. I've got a picture of some nurses working together on a ward there. I've got a bin man taking our rubbish away. And I've got Newcott on the Block, which is round the corner. And I've got beanies. And so Newcott on the Block, I regularly provide me with chips, and other people at the Buddhist Centre with chips. And beanies always gives us our potatoes that Tansel so expertly bakes for us every Tuesday. If you come along to Potato Club, those potatoes have come from beanies. So yeah, this is when we're bringing to mind all the people that are kind of more behind the scenes, as it were, that we don't necessarily always know that they're doing the things that they're doing for us. So the people who kind of keep things ticking over, who care for us, and who are part of the infrastructure in society. So yeah, bin men every week taking our rubbish or our recycling away. We might not even be that aware that that's happening, especially when we used to live in our old house. We didn't even have to take the bins out. They'd just come and take the rubbish. We had to put the rubbish in, and then it would just go, just like that. Now we have to remember to take the bins out, which we're managing to do. As each week comes along, we're getting better at it. But so yeah, nurses and other health professionals, if we're poorly, we go to the doctors or the hospital, and there are people there who help. And yeah, the chip shop, beanies, I'm often relying on other people to provide the food for me that I eat. And that can come up for me with this direction. It's like, yeah, I'm sometimes cooking the food for myself. Often other people have bought that food. But yeah, when I go out and get a coffee or go and get fast food or something like that, other people are providing that food for me. So yeah, the people that are part of the infrastructures, the service people who are doing all those things that we might not even realise is going on. So we've got to bow to the floor now. We can manage it. So now we've got above, which I've put on the shrine here. We've got the Buddha here raised up. So spiritual teachers, and again these would have been really visible in Indian society, and they're still quite visible in Indian society, and the Buddha had his foresight when he left the palace of seeing a holy man walking down the street. And again, in our society, holy people might not be quite as revered, or they might not even be that visible anymore. So this is asking us to kind of retain this sense of respect and gratitude for the people that are exemplifying a different way of life for us, that are showing us how to become wiser and more compassionate. They're showing us a path to greater understanding. So we might have had our own foresight, our own kind of vision of a different way of life, and we've come along to the intro course, and there's been people who've taught us things on that course, Vidanya maybe. Was doing that course for us, and we've got the centre team as well who are often speaking here at Sangha night. We've got all the other order members here in Sheffield who teach and who meet up with us and help us to know which way to turn sometimes when we're in difficulty. So it's just anybody really who helps us in our spiritual quest, anybody who can give us that little nugget or that really big nugget that helps, of wisdom that helps us on our way. So yeah, I've got a picture here of two order members so they're wearing the kesa. I don't know who they are, but just to represent that there will be people in our lives who we see as being our spiritual teachers, and that we can show gratitude to them. So you might want to wish the Buddha, bow to the Buddha as a way of acknowledging that, where you can try and bow to the above, which I quite like doing. Say that. You. That's all of the directions, you'll be pleased to hear. Have a drink of water. So why did the Buddha bring all of these people in? And it's quite extensive. And why would we be protected by honouring or showing gratitude to all of these? I'm going to talk about that now. And I looked at the original sutta, the original text, and it had been translated into these words, which is that, for example, for the parents, the child should minister to his parents. And the parents thus ministered to show their compassion. So it was like that in every single direction, that if we minister to those people, then they will show us compassion. So I looked at what ministering to people is, and I found it was to give help or to care for someone. So again, gratitude isn't just a feeling here, we're actually wanting to acknowledge our gratitude so that hopefully that will in turn lead us to give help to or care for those people. And then if we do that, those people will show us compassion. So there'll be a deepening connection within our relationship to those people. We'll be shown care and consideration by those people as well. So again, there's kind of a karmic link there, that if you do something positive, if you show care to somebody, then they're likely to show that kind of care back to you. So yeah, and I think that was important as well, because it's showing that we can feel gratitude, we can do this exercise to cultivate gratitude, and hopefully that will lead to actually acknowledging that in our behaviour. And I think the Buddha included all of these because he wanted to show that actually our lives, we are dependent on so many different types of people, and that they all represent a whole. It's not just these little people here and there, it's that there is a bit of a kind of a whole that we can acknowledge in order to better represent how we survive, how we rely on people, that interconnectedness that I've been talking about. And we've got a word of Buddhism which is mandala, which this kind of is. It's a mandala, which means circle. And a mandala represents a whole. It represents a kind of a microcosm of the universe, really. It's everything in one kind of diagram or one symbol. And mandalas are balanced. They're there to symbolise that everything needs to be in balance. So the Buddha is asking us not to put too much weight onto any of these directions, but to include them all when we're feeling gratitude. And I think that's really important, that we need to consider the whole. We can't dismiss any of them, and nor can we kind of put too much emphasis on one and forget about the others. So there might be a particular direction that we'd like to give more focus to at the moment. If we notice that there is an imbalance in our lives within this mandala, we might want to address that by focusing a little bit more, like maybe we want to dwell more on what have our teachers brought to us. So the mandala is there to give us a sense of a whole, so that we can make sure that there's some kind of balance in our lives, and that we're not forgetting anything, and that we've got that balance. Yeah. And so there could be ebb and flow within that. Like I've said, you might want to focus on one a little bit to kind of try and get that balance. But we need to maintain this sense of it as a whole, and the importance of each and every direction. And can we acknowledge that we exist thanks to all of these relationships, and that without any of them, we wouldn't last very long. We really are dependent on them and interconnected. So I want to share the experience that I had when I did this. We've been standing up and bowing as I've been talking, but you can do this exercise as a meditation, as by bringing these people to mind, and then standing up and bowing to that direction as part of your meditation. And Bodhinaga led us through that when we did the Gratitude Sangha weekend that we've recently done. And I did that once 5 years ago maybe, on a Mitra retreat. I was part of a little Mitra group that would meet every week to study, and we went away together for a weekend with Moksatara, who used to teach my Mitra group before she moved to a retreat centre in Wales. And so we were all there together, and we were doing this gratitude meditation. And afterwards I felt extremely alive, and I had a very vivid sense of interconnectedness and reliance that I hadn't really experienced yet before. And I think that gave me a much broader and therefore more realistic sense of all of the people that I have to be grateful to. So this experience was very positive for me, and it was also very pleasurable. And I no longer felt quite so separate or alone. And I remember that time because it was a really important time for me, because I really wanted to change the things that were going on in my life in order to acknowledge that that experience had been so positive, and I wanted to allow for those experiences to come more and more into my life. So I thought afterwards, I know, I'll go on a longer retreat, because I've not been on a longer retreat yet. I've only been on weekends, so yeah, I'll go on a week-long retreat somewhere. That will be what I'll do next. And then I realised that actually I was really overdrawn, and I didn't really have any money, and that if I went on the retreat and paid the full amount for that retreat, then I'd be overdrawn for longer. And I didn't really enjoy my job at the time, and I thought, I don't really want to stay in this job because it's not really bringing me much happiness or really enabling me to do what I really want to do with my life, although I don't think I really knew what that was at the time. And there might have been other ways that I could have gone on the retreat without much money. There are bursaries available sometimes, but what I decided to do was to just stay in the job that I had for a little bit longer, save out of my overdraft, and that by doing that I'd be freer to do something more worthwhile with my life. And that's what I did, and I didn't go on the long retreat then. And what I saw happen then was that once I was free of my overdraft, I could work in a team-based right livelihood and have less income than I would have done if I was still in my overdraft, and that led to me going to work in the evolution shop. And after that I did go on longer retreats when I was more able to do so, and I was more able to afford to do so. And I think that was kind of part of the same experience, because there was something to do with the interconnectedness of everything that was going on for me there. It was like, I could have gone on a retreat, but I also saw that actually it was really important that I kind of sorted the rest of my life out in a way that would enable me to go on retreat more. So maybe there was a bit of integration that was going on there as well as a positive emotion, I don't know. But yeah, it was a very, very pleasurable experience, and I wrote a poem on it when I was here doing a poetry workshop, and it was about times that have changed your life. We had to think about times that changed our life and write a poem about it, and I can remember writing about that time. And I ended it with you had to include now you must change your life, but after I'd included that line I said, but first run to the swing with Lucy. So Lucy was my friend, it was in my Mitra group, and there was a swing where we were, and I think that again it just shows that it was a very, very joyful experience to feel this connected, to feel an understanding of interconnectedness, and that Lucy was important in that because she was my friend and we were living that life together. And I wanted to share that. And when we did this exercise with Bodhinaga on retreat, he asked us afterwards to write a thank you note. So after we'd done the meditation, he'd put out all these different colours, bits of paper, different coloured paper, and lots of different pens. And we could go and choose a bit of paper and write a thank you note to anybody who'd come up for us when we were doing the exercise of writing out names and also the meditation of bringing all the directions to mind. And I did that, and I wrote a letter to my friend Anya, who lives in a retreat centre. Lives at Ambastana. And that was also a really, really positive thing to do. And again, and it was showing how if we feel grateful, we can act on that and we can do something in the world that is beneficial to the other people that we're kind of thinking of. And I probably wouldn't have done that if Bodhinaga hadn't have suggested it. I probably would have just kind of wandered off and enjoyed whatever state of mind I was in, or if I wasn't in a good state of mind, I would have just gone and got a biscuit or something to distract myself from it. But yeah, so I was really grateful for his idea to do that, so that I could actually acknowledge that I was feeling gratitude. And that comes back to there can be an action part of positive emotion. And I want to talk a little bit about how can we bring those two together quickly. So, it means actually making that card for somebody and putting it in the post, or it might mean cleaning that part of the house that needs cleaning, that other people would be grateful for you if you cleaned it. And Tanza was reflecting on this week. He was saying that there can be, he had this, I hope you don't mind me sharing this, I haven't asked, sorry. He said there can be no generosity without gratitude. And I took note of this because I am very inspired by Tanza. He has a very generous and abundant attitude. So maybe we could just reflect on that. There can be no generosity without gratitude. And how can we act in a way that shows that we don't just think we're at the centre of the universe, that we know that there are all these other people that we have to be grateful for. How can we show them that we're that grateful for them? And I'll just end with this quote from a story about this very harmonious community called the Anuruddhas, where one of them says, "Why should I not set aside what I am minded to do?" So instead, we can just set aside what we're minded to do, and instead do what we know will bring happiness and joy to the other people in our lives that we acknowledge as being very supportive and that we're very grateful to. And in that way that we can see that kind of living with this interconnected sense, and that's a great gain for us, and it's a great gain for other people too. So yeah, this is how we can be protected by honouring the 6 directions. And if you want, you can walk around the hall afterwards and have a little look at, well, we're going to go into groups, but maybe if you want to come up in the tea break and have a little look around. Yeah, we can honour the 6 directions, we can be protected by gratitude and the positivity that that brings to our own mental states. We can be protected by the recognition and understanding of interrelatedness that can arise from that, understanding interconnectedness. And that helps us to live more in line with reality. And we can also be protected by being able to create the meaningful relationships to all things and these authentic and genuine relationships to all